How's it going, everybody? My name's Dave Whipple and you're watching Cheap Wheels. If you're like me and you like to buy older vehicles and inexpensive vehicles, you probably had one or two that have crank windows. I've got a few older rigs that have crank windows and I love crank windows. About the only thing that can go wrong is the inner mechanism can get dirty and rusty and it can start to be hard to crank or hard to uncrank. The other thing that can happen is window crank handles can break. Today what we're going to do is we're going to replace a window crank handle. I'm going to show you guys just how easy it is to change your own window crank handle. Stay tuned. Now I've done a few things on this channel that are a bit complicated, like changing the universal joints in a 4x4 front end. This job is nothing like that. Generally what you're going to find on window cranks like this is you're going to find a screw in the center. This one is a Torx head. You remove the screw and the old handle will come right off. Now the reason I'm replacing this handle is the handle's fine, but it's missing the crank button, and without the crank button it's just no fun to use. So for $8 it's going to be an easy fix. Just remove that screw and open up our package. Now on this particular type of handle, it has a cap that goes over the handle itself. Now, this plastic cap covers up the hole with the screw. A lot of older vehicles, they'll just have a hole with a screw, and I kind of prefer that, to be honest. Now on this particular handle, there's a little bit of a molding line right here where you hang on to the crank and crank it. Now, I'm just going to take my pocket knife. I'm going to trim off that little bit of molding so it doesn't bother my hand later on down the road. Well, that's much nicer. Now the hardest part of this job is just probably going to be popping this cover off of the handle itself. There we go. So we just need to pop that off. Take our screw. We're going to put our old washer back on there. And we're going to put our handle in place, just like that. We're going to run our screw in there. Get it nice and snug. Put that cap back on. I can feel the wind in my hair already. Perfect. Not every window crank is held on with a screw though. Let me show you one that's held on a different way. Now on a window crank handle like this, it actually has a little clip, a little spring clip behind it. It's kind of difficult to get out, but it's not impossible. One of the best tools to use for this type of a door handle is a little pick like this. You get back in there, and this way you can catch that little spring. You can catch that little spring and pull it out. Now just like our door handle that we use the screw on, this one has kind of a knurled knob that sticks out, but it doesn't have a screw spot in the middle. It has this little recessed groove in it. There's little spline grooves on the inside of this handle that match up with the little spline grooves here and lock it on tight. Then once the handle's back on, this little spring clip will go over top of the handle, and you can see those little springs will go rest inside the groove on that knurled post and it'll lock it right in place. So if you had to replace this window crank, you'd put your washer on there. Most every window crank has this kind of trim washer. And then we would put our window crank handle back in there. And in this case, we're going to take our little spring clip. We're going to put it in from behind, like so. And then we're just going to use our flat bladed screwdriver and we're going to press it into place. Super easy, and if you do it yourself, it's super cheap. Costs you $5 or $6 for the window crank and just a minute or two to change it. Now I know that we live in the era of power windows, and for a lot of folks, crank up windows are a thing of the past and they belong in antique cars. But if you're like the rest of us that have old cars and trucks, crank up windows are something that we use every day. If you ever have a crank up window handle that fails on you, well, that's not a big deal. $6 at the parts store and 10 minutes of your time, you're right back in action. Thank you guys so much for watching Cheap Wheels. My name's Dave Whipple. Keep your junk on the road. See you soon.